2018, what a year. It was a year of really surprisingly awesome games. You had the first really good Dragon Ball game in years. You had God of War come back and be totally different, and it was fine. You had a really good Spider-Man game. Then you had Red Dead Redemption 2, the apparent game of the generation, and hey, look, it's good we got a new Red Dead game after all these years. But that's not what I think of. That's not what I think of when I think Game of the Year 2018. To me, that would have to be one of the earliest games I played that actually got released this year, Celeste. Celeste is so for those who don't know, Celeste is a hardcore platform in the vein of games like, say, Super Meat Boy or N+. But unlike those games which seem to really revel in, like, look how hard we are, this just seems like it wants to encourage you. Like, the game is constantly telling you that you can do this. You can get past the levels. And for what it's worth, it's all really fair. And I never really felt that from other games of this type. Mostly because the level design is good and challenging and it ramps up, but also the mechanics of just dodging and diving and just moving around. Like, it's a specific kind of feeling that most games don't really get down really well, but Celeste is the only game this year to me that felt like it executed well in its mechanics, and just, I didn't want to put it down when I played it. And I can't say that about a lot of other games this year. Maybe Red Dead Redemption 2, but hey, it's a long video game, still playing it, parent game of the generation, who knows, but still, for me right now, Celeste, Game of the Year 2018, you should play it.
For gaming, I'd consider 2018 to be fairly top and bottom heavy. While there were a great number of titles to drop during Q2 and 3, my Game of the Year list consists of releases from either the start or the tail end of the year. Despite playing a heap of solid games like Valkyria Chronicles 4, Yakuza Kiwami 2, and Vampire, a phrase from Connor McLeod of Highlander stipulates that there can be only 1 and 2 and 3, but I digress. My third favourite this year had to be Return of the Obra Dinn. Its combination of deductive gameplay and intentionally archaic graphical rendering sent me decades back to the nostalgic era of investigative adventure titles immortalized on old IBM systems. Its design allows players to take the game at their own pace without penalizing them or making them feel inferior, which is a pretty tough ask for games of its ilk. Moving on to my second favorite, Red Dead Redemption 2. After being a vocal detractor of the first game and the second prior to its release, the fact that Rockstar went all in, not skimping on their initial vision, is enough for me to safely admit that my foot was firmly in my mouth. Take a bleak yet touching narrative about the price of freedom, the definition of loyalty, and making sense of an emergent world, then couple that with engaging game mechanics and immaculate attention to detail, and you have yourself an unmissable experience. And finally, while this may not come as a complete surprise to all of you, but my Game of the Year of 2018 has gone to Monster Hunter World. This behemoth signaled Monster Hunter for the new generation, harnessing the most recent of computer technology to create dense playgrounds packed with deadly monsters and ecosystems you can lose yourself in for hours. Changes to the ways decorations and skills worked shook up weapon and armor set meta, and improvements to the user interface really made things friendlier. Steady and free content updates make this the only live service game I can recommend this year, one that doesn't treat their players like garbage, and I can't help but find myself going back to it all the time. It's equal parts engaging and earnest, and that's why it took gold for me this year.
Now I'm going to give 2 games a year. Firstly, a retro game, and that's Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. It's not retro, it's a remake this year, but it was superbly well done. Crash Bandicoot originally, the 3 games were really adventurous and tried a lot of new things, and it was one of the games that really set the PlayStation apart from everyone else at the time. The remake dresses everything up with a nice coat of paint, and it looks superb. It's still brutally hard to play at times, especially when you're doing the sky levels going across the bridge, but it's still rewarding to finish. It's a great game, thoroughly recommended. Now, I'm going to give another award for God's sake, stop buying your son's Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, this award goes to Just Cause 4. Just Cause 4 has a lot of similar elements to that. You can drive around, you can be a lunatic, you can ride a plane in the sky like a horse. It's got everything you enjoy, it's still got all the gunfights. An interesting story, you don't buy as much stuff as Just Cause 3, but it doesn't have that horrid urban US culture in it. Now, we know that's a piss take, we know what they're trying to do with that, but the average 12-year-old boy doesn't, and their parents that buy it often don't either. So stop buying Grand Theft Auto 5 for your kids, go out, look for Just Cause 4. That's a great game, it'll give them a similar experience. That's my Game of the Year.
So I had a hard time actually thinking of Game of the Year this year. A lot of AAA titles kind of left me a little bit disappointed, and a few other games that just felt like could have been a hell of a lot better than they were. And comparing like my list to last year, I was like, there's not a lot of games there I thought that really impacted me that a lot did like last year and the year before. That said, here's my top 3 this year. Top one, I guess third on the list is Dead Cells. An indie game that I just came out, not out of nowhere, but had this slow release burn that really built up the game and made it so much better than its earlier base stuff. The feeling and the tactile, I guess, motion of the game and gameplay styles that you could actually implement into the game and stuff like that was just such a great feeling to get used to, and learning mechanics of enemies and stuff was just a really, really great feeling to get through them and get to the end game and stuff like that. Number 2 on my list is actually Dragon Ball FighterZ. One of those games that I also thought that, you know what, could be left to the side, was maybe going to be another Marvel, but you know, it wasn't. It was a great game. It reunited the tribes. It was one of those ones where it grabbed everything great from Marvel and then going, oh, let's grab some anime stuff too, and just went bang and boom. It was such a great game. The anime style of the game itself was great. The animations themselves, the music, even the gameplay. It was just such a great feeling to get in a hold of. I'm copping out this year on my number 1 though, and it's going to be Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So I only played it this year. It really, really impacted me like really well, and it's also had an expansion this year, so you know what, I'll give it that, whatever, I don't care anymore.
This year has been the return of the game, and by that I mean there's been a lot of games that have come out this year that are quintessentially games. God of War, for example, and as much as it was great following the story of Atreus and Kratos across Norse mythology, it was a gamer's game. RPG elements, really like obvious kind of, you know, all the enemies had levels, they had health bars, all that kind of stuff. So it was quintessentially a game. It wore that on its sleeve, and as a result, it was, you know, it was great. Things like Monster Hunter World. So we finally got a PS4 version of Monster Hunter, right? So we've got that game as well, comes in, brings its unique style of gameplay to the PS4, which I don't think it's been on a console since Wii U, I want to say, and brings that, changes things, does enough to make it engaging. Plenty of great things about that as well. Dragon Ball FighterZ unites the tribes. It brings everyone together, from the anime fighter fans to the anime fans, and just puts them all together into one melange and makes a great game as a result. So there's been plenty of very good games, and in any other year, they'd take Game of the Year. However, Red Dead Redemption 2 is hands down the game of this year, and I would argue the game of this generation. The sad tale of Arthur Morgan just touched me in a way that most other games didn't even try to do this year. It was a storytelling experience, it was a world, it was a universe. It built John Marston up better than the first game did. I maintain that the best thing they could possibly do is remake the first game in this engine, because we all know the planet and the world is there. To me, this is Rockstar. This is peak Rockstar. When they're writing pointless sad boys, they do it better than anybody else. And I really find it hard to think a game next year, which is going to be that lull year between consoles, is going to have a better experience than Red Dead Redemption 2 as well.
My game of the year? Well, I mean, this year we've had Monster Hunter World, Jurassic World Evolution, and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. And you want me to choose one?
Just choose.
Oh, fine. My game of the year this year is Let's Go Eevee. Let's Go Eevee brings us that taste of RPGs to come, whilst giving us a hint into what VR Pokemon might be actually like. It brings the ultimate cuteness of Eevee and small quirks like PG loving the fountain that give the game the extra bit of magic I've been looking for.
Biased.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So we obviously had quite a few new games coming out in 2018, but I had a lot of fun with some older games, some remakes, some remasters, re-releases. Captain Toad was probably the first one, actually. It re-released on Switch after coming out on Wii U a little while ago. And I still feel like the game design of Captain Toad is phenomenal. And of course on Switch as well, it looks so good. The Mario Odyssey levels, I think, are some of the best visuals that Switch has to offer. Spyro the Reignited trilogy as well, being a Spyro boy, love the original trilogy, and the PS4 remaster, re-release wasn't perfect, but I think the devs did a really admirable job of pulling that project together and making it accessible and contemporary. I think that is something that really should be applauded. As far as new games, Monster Prom was one that kind of flew under my radar for a little bit, but it had phenomenal writing, a lot of character in the characters and in the world, and I really, really enjoyed that for a visual novel dating sim that is also multiplayer. I'm yet to play it in multiplayer, but I'm still looking forward to it. Forza Horizon 4 was also a new one that I got into. It's another Forza Horizon game. I literally could say pretty much nothing else about it outside of Seasons Make the World a lot better. Game of the year for me, though, is Celeste. This was from Matt Makes Games, who had previously done Towerfall Ascension. The game came through, though, with obviously beautiful pixel art, great movement, but also this really heartfelt story that told the story of mental health in a really mature way. And I think that dev team really should be applauded for the work they did in that game.
Everyone else has talked about their favorite games of 2018, and I don't want to tread over that ground. There's only so much that we can praise Dead Cells. That's what everyone else did, right? Cool? Cool. So instead, I want to talk about the most improved games in 2018 because, as we saw in the last Game of the Year episode, every game is a service now. So to that end, I want to talk about Destiny 2, which I was still playing so much of in 2018. For one, they killed off Cade 6. Yes! He was the most annoying character in the game, and this alone would have made Destiny 2 one of my top 3 most improved games. But that would be ignoring the myriad improvements that came with the Forsaken expansion. The fact that there is a meaningful endgame now, the fact that to get there, the dailies and weekly quests are being broken out, and so you've got an obvious pathway and clear progression. And then once you're there, you've got your raids, you've got the Dreaming City area, you've got the multiplayer Gambit mode, which is great so long as you have friends or a clan along. And this is on top of what is already one of the best shooting in video gaming. So that's what's kept me playing Destiny 2 in 2018. And when I wasn't there, I was also playing Pokemon Go. Yes, people still play that game, and there are dozens of us, hundreds of us, thousands of us. And this is because Niantic have treated this just as a rolling series of events with the monthly community days, plus your regular events to promote new Pokemon or to release slightly uncommon or rarer Pokemon. There is a reason to keep on opening that game as you're going for walks, and myself and many, many others have done so as well. So sorry God of War, sorry Red Dead Redemption 2, but these are games that improved much in 2018 that deserved so much of my time.